guys, how's it going? So today we are going to be taking and breaking down all the pistol Akimbo class setups, because across when I've done the best Akimbo setups, which is now, I don't know, it's had to have been over a month or two since I covered all of those. I've had a crap ton of questions coming in the comments up until today. So for this one, I'm going to crack a monster open real quick, and there ain't going to be no gameplay. We're just going to look at each one individually, break down some individual aspects of each one, get some updated information, because there have been some nerfs and some buffs here or there, and some of them aren't as good as they used to be, and some of them are better. But we're going to be starting it off with the X16. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. Like, I'm not trying to milk this video's length or anything. I really hope I can keep it under 10 minutes. But anyway, so we're going to be starting off. A lot of these are still pretty much the exact same. I just want to cover a couple of the things that I've seen, you know, like I said, the questions that have come up along in different versions of the videos for these. So you would start with the X16. You definitely want to still rock with a lightweight trigger, throwing the 26 round mag attachment. Obviously, if you're going to be rocking Akimbo, you got to go down and throw on the Akimbo perk. But now with that, then here's where things, you can kind of change it up a little bit depending on what game mode you're playing and what you're trying to accomplish. Now look, whenever it comes to the lasers, your only two options you want to go with is the 1 milliwatt laser and the 5 milliwatt laser, but they have their advantages and disadvantages. Obviously, the 5 milliwatt laser, you definitely get more consistent and accurate hip fire shots, which is the only thing you can do when you're running the Akimbo class setup. But you got two bright green laser beams that are constantly shining out, giving away a position. Now for regular multiplayer, 100%, I don't think there's no reason to not run the 5 milliwatt laser, just because you're going to be playing that aggressive anyways. But a lot of you guys want the Akimbo to run as your secondary in Warzone, okay? So now with that, having the 1 milliwatt laser makes the most sense, because you definitely do want a laser, because whenever you can go between having a barrel and a muzzle, and now this is one of the things that definitely changes depending on which handgun you're using. Because whenever you take and throw in like a compensator, you know, you see down in your stats, you get a little bump in, you know, in your control and your accuracy, which is kind of noticeable whenever you're holding these things, because it keeps your muzzle lift down and it keeps your shots in a relatively closer pattern. But you gotta remember, Akimbo, it's only meant to be used, you know, super up close and personal regardless. So when it comes to the barrel, you're not really going to gain too much from having some of these longer barrel and slide attachments. Like I said, it does help your control with the X16, just because of how it functions. If I'm in Warzone, I would throw on the 1 milliwatt laser and then just go with the compensator attachment. Or if you want to keep it stealthy, then you could throw on something like the tactical suppressor. I mean, like I said, the range isn't that big of a deal, because I mean, your effective range with this is not going to be really extended beyond what it is with the standard barrel, just because the accuracy, even with the 5 milliwatt laser, diminishes so much out to a distance. But like I said, but definitely for like regular multiplayer, I would just swap out the 5 milliwatt laser, and then this right here is how I'd run the X16 in Warzone. Now next up, we got the old 1911. Now with this one, having the extended mag attachment is huge. But now, like the biggest benefit of 1911 is you get some very good damage for the ammo capacity. And you know, I mean, like, it don't make a lot of sense because the X16 is 45, the 1911 is 45. But anyways, we'll digress away from that. But it's really about the exact same thing. So we got our the lightweight trigger, which is a must. Then we got our 15 round mags, and then we got our Akimbo perk. Same thing with this one. You know, if you're going to be doing Warzone, and if you might want to take and have the ability, you know, if you're in a house, you can sit there at the door, not camping, but you know, if you pushed into a house, enemy teams are rushing, you can hold up at a door, you can have your 1 milliwatt laser on there, and no problem, they won't be able to see you, and you can be pre-aim the door. So that would be the way to go there. For this one, definitely still rocking with the compensator, unless you really want that suppressor attachment. But just in terms of control and getting more consistent shots in a tight pattern while still spamming the trigger, that right there is going to be the setup to rock and roll with. Now the 1911 is, I mean, it's very good, like I said, because of the power, and especially in events you get lucky and you can get a couple rounds to go right into the noggin, then you know you shouldn't have any issues with it. But I personally don't like running an Akimbo that much, just because of, even with the lightweight trigger, the ammo, I mean, like, the fire rate still isn't where I'd like it to be. and you still just have limited ammo capacity compared to the other handguns. So it's just not one that I would recommend if you're really, trying. Now if you're just working on camos and stuff, you're rocking the 1911 anyways, or you just fancy it a lot, then I mean it can still get the job done. But I would have to put the X16 in akimbo fashion over the 1911. And now to the acclaimed 357 Magnum. I know we have all run into this setup, and it was huge there for a while, but thankfully and unfortunately, depending on who you are and your experiences with it, the old snake shot dude jig got buffed. I mean, not got buffed. Sorry, excuse my language. Got nerfed pretty gosh darn heavy. But it's still the best setup if you're just looking to run 357 Magnum. But in terms of having it as your primary akimbo setup, is not going to be your option unless you just have god awful accuracy. Then it might play better for you in the end. But that's still going to be the akimbo setup that I'm going to show you, because the problem with the standard 357 Magnum rounds is that it's just the odds of you landing all the shots necessary in most cases, especially Warzone, out of the 12 that you have, despite that it's got some pretty high damage. I mean, you literally have to be barrel stuffing them, and it's just not, the odds aren't good in terms of trying to play it to where that's your only option, even if it is up close, and this is going to be your only up close option as your secondary. But you'll definitely need the lightweight trigger. Same thing with the laser, tac laser for multiplayer, 1 watt laser for Warzone, unless you know for a fact that you're only going to be whipping this bad boy out, regardless of which pistol it is, when they are just whenever you and the other dude are just kissing each other, like straight up Frenching each other's tongue, just go with the 1 watt laser. Now with the snake shot, aside from anything that you can do to the muzzle with this one, I would definitely say go with 357 long, because that pushes your damage range and bullet velocity. With the velocity ain't necessarily it, but it does hold a tighter pattern with the snake shot at a slightly longer range. So that right there would be the way to go with this one. So working on camos, still a fine setup to do so with the 357 mag, but would not recommend running this as your akimbo setup in Warzone anymore, just because it's just nowhere near what it used to be after they nerfed it, and it's just not that good in Warzone. Hey, and now we got the old M19, bro, and the old 9mm caliber. Now this thing right here is one, it's kind of interesting, because all these guns, they're relatively balanced pretty well, but I mean here's the issues with the M19. Okay, so I mean, well, let's first talk about the pros. So you got, with the lightweight trigger, you can rattle off rounds with this thing super fast if you got a trigger finger. You got 32 rounds, so that is 64 rounds total when you're running this in the akimbo fashion, so you can spray tons of lead down range, and you got a lot of ammo, counting what you can have over in your ammo stack, whatever you want to call it, and then you'll have the 64 rounds in your hands, so you got a lot of ammo. And I mean, like, up close and personal, if you're using the akimbo setup how you're supposed to be using them, which is like really just not using them if the enemy's past 5 feet away from you, unless this is just the only weapon option you have, you can definitely get some kills with it. I mean, because it doesn't take an ungodly amount of rounds of bullets to take and get people down in Warzone, even if they're fully armored up, because I mean it's still relatively realistic and balanced, especially when you got that fire rate. But it's one of those things where you gotta be honest. Is your trigger finger, are you kind of slow with it? How do you like to run it? But in terms of the other weapons, this one's definitely the same. You want that compensator, and for Warzone, the 1 watt laser, and for multiplayer, the tac laser. Because I mean, like I said, just touch on it again while we're on the M19. Having a longer barrel, I mean, you can push your damage range and stuff out a little bit, but in the akimbo fashion, your effective range is so gosh darn short, it just doesn't make sense. And I've tried it, especially when I was working on these things, that it's not a noticeable bump, it's not a noticeable improvement. So this right here is definitely the best way to run it. But once again, the M19 is not something I would recommend for Warzone. I mean, it's not bad. Let's just say if the M19 is the one pistol you've got leveled up the most and everything unlocked for it, then feel free to go ahead and use it, because I mean, it's better than anything you can pick up in the game in terms of handguns and stuff that's already got blueprints out for it, and especially since it's the akimbo. But just remember to use it in its effective range, which is when you're basically touching the guy. Here we have the elephant, the beast, the rhino, whatever you want to call it. It's the Deagle, the 50 cal GS handgun. Okay, and this is, I just went in through on the attachments just to speed things up a little bit, since we're pushing into the into the lengthier side of things, this right here is definitely going to be the way you want to run this bad boy if you're in Warzone. And I'm going to tell you, this is my second favorite akimbo setup to use in Warzone, because with the lightweight trigger, you know, it's still got a slow fire rate, but this thing, for whatever reason, just has an extremely, and this is something, honestly, that it's probably going to get nerfed in the future, but when you're rocking, especially that 5 milliwatt laser setup, which is something, in this situation, I would even recommend running the 5 milliwatt in Warzone. That's one of those things you can agree or disagree with me on that, but once you use the 5 milliwatt laser with this deagle, the bullets, like, your hitbox, it's so tight, your pattern is so tight, and this thing, you know, shuts people down with just a couple rounds, even if they're max armor, especially if you get lucky and pop them in the noggin. So this is one that I've actually been using a wee bit in Warzone, but it's especially just ungodly when, you know, you can jam the barrels in their chest and just let a couple rounds off. So definitely would highly recommend this deagle class setup if you're playing Warzone, whatever, and especially still dominant in multiplayer. And you can push the range out a little bit further than the other handguns, and this thing still holds a really tight group and a really tight pattern. And now we are down to the fan favorite Renetti pistol. Okay, now this one right here, you know, changed up slightly because we got the MK3 burst mod. If you're using the Renetti, you got it leveled up. The burst mod's the way to go, regardless of if you're running it in single or akimbo fashion. Get that lightweight trigger so you can throw them rounds out pretty gosh darn quick. Ammunition, you want all the ammunition you can stack in there. So we got the 27 round mag attachment, obviously the akimbo, and rocking with the 5 milliwatt laser with this one. And that's another one that I would say to hold true with, regardless of if you're playing Warzone or multiplayer. I mean, like with Warzone, if depending on your play style, you know, if you think that you're better off having the 1 milliwatt so that you can, you know, just pre-aim doors and stuff, but it's like, I'll go ahead and say this here is got to be my favorite akimbo class setup still. It did get nerfed a wee bit, but it's still ungodly overpowered. You know, especially if you take and run this thing, like I said, I've said it a million times, I'll say it again, run it the way the akimbo should be run. You're not trying to run around this thing in Warzone, you know, just balls to the wall, have the thing out the whole time. Like, you only need to run this if you're in a house, you know, you're in a building, somebody runs up on you and you got a sniper, you're running an LMG or something, and it makes sense to just hurry and swap to it, because you rattle off an ungodly number of rounds. It's super quick. This thing with the 5 milliwatt laser still holds an extremely tight pattern. If you double pump your triggers on your controller, so you're firing each handgun at the same time and not alternating, which it's like, I don't know, it's almost like a natural reaction. I've seen with a lot of people, they want to alternate their shots, but that's not the best way to use akimbo. You want to be rattling them off at the exact same time so that you have the most amount of rounds going down range in a consistent manner. So, you know, there's just a little tip and trick for you. But this one right here, I'm telling you guys, it's still the Mac Daddy and the way to go. Like I said, these things could change a wee bit, but if you're not into the Renetti, you don't have it unlocked, you don't have the burst mod unlocked, then definitely go with the deagle class setup. But that right there, guys, I'm going to try to end it there because this video was a bit lengthier than I had anticipated. But I knew it would be a little bit longer because I wanted to touch on them in as much detail as I could without, you know, just rambling, okay? But that's every handgun in its best akimbo form and fashion. My two favorites being the 50 cal and the Renetti, regardless of if you're playing, you know, you're playing Warzone or you're playing regular multiplayer. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, share with your friends. You know, do this, that, and the other. Hit me up in the comments with thoughts, opinions, other videos you'd like for me to do. And yeah, guys, hope you're having a good day. And until the next one, adios.